Years ago, when I was 19 years old, I woke up like any average day, except this day, something just felt off. And as the days progressed, I began to realize, and it truly terrified me, that my entire life up to that point was the creation of somebody else. I realized I was living somebody else's life. From my point of view on what reality was, to what I thought my limitations were, to what I even though it was possible for myself, everything had been built and crafted by society, by the schooling system, by my parents, by my friends. I basically just went through my life for 19 years, just taking in whatever other people said was the right way to do. And as I was sitting there at my job, scouring the internet, just trying to find some kind of answer, because I didn't know what to do. I dropped out of college. I wasn't interested in anything the university had to offer me. I didn't have any desire or knowledge or awareness of what job and career path I wanted. Heck, I tried to join the military, but I realized they were trying to get me into another job so they could get a bigger commission. So I just felt like everybody and everything around me was a lie. Until one day, after weeks and weeks of reading and watching videos and praying, I realized I needed to brainwash myself. Because clearly the brainwashing had worked on me up until that point. But for me to get from where I was then to where I wanted to be, which I still had a vague idea, I realized I'm going to have to become a totally different person. I had to break the script that society had installed into my head. Teachers had taught me to seek approval, that there's only A, B, C, or D, that I have to find the right answer. But I started realizing as I was becoming an adult that there is no, like, this is the only answer. There's so many answers. There's so many realities out there. You can clearly see that. There's people that are making lots of money. There's people making no money. There's people that build an amazing life in their hometown. And then there's lots of people that never leave their hometown. So I had no idea what the true answer was. And then you've got friends around you that aren't really going anywhere. And you want to make something of yourself. But these people that are your age, they actually don't care. They're just like, oh, I'll just go through the motions and I'll go and get a college degree. Then I'm going to go get a mortgage and I'm just going to follow the script. Your parents mean well. And I do want to put that context. Your parents love you. They do mean well, but you also have to understand that they're just people at the end of the day. They've lived their life up to that point and they do want what's best for you, but what they want that's best for you might not be what you actually want out of life. And that's a terrifying thing because you realize that at the end of the day, you are your own person. And if you're lucky to have that one other person that is also has kind of like escaped the societal structure, that gives you a sense of confidence. But at that time, I didn't have anybody like that. Everybody else, it was almost like they were just going through the motions of life. And I was like, I want to get out of this. I want to escape. I want to make money. I want to be able to build a business. I want to not have to worry about whenever I scan my debit card if there's going to be enough money on it. And even worse, I realized that all of my decisions up until that point had been filtered through scarcity. They'd been filtered through approval. They'd been filtered through what's right and what's wrong. And so I began the process of installing new beliefs to make money outside of a job that would enable me to be able to live abroad, that would enable me to create the life that I wanted. And man, oh man, that was a long process, but it was very worth it because now I've been living abroad for over 6 years. Now I've traveled to 27 different countries. I have an amazing personal life. I'm running my own business. I'm successful. I can do the things I want to do. And I became very clear on what I actually wanted out of life. But it first started with me removing the script that society had put into my mind and writing my own script. And it started with me deciding to learn skills that could pay more than the bills. Because at the time, I just realized that if I wanted any shot at living the life I wanted, I had to stop relying on a 9 to 5. And there's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. Actually, I know quite a few people that happily work jobs. But for me specifically, I realized that I want to live abroad. So clearly, I cannot sit there working a 9 to 5 and only take a 2-week vacation once a year. And at the time, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I literally, clear as day, had no idea. You could give me all these options, and I think I'll choose all of them because I was scared of making a wrong decision. But circumstance ended up pushing me into needing to figure something out because by this point, I tried all these different side hustles and make money online. I tried it all. And I finally found something that made me enough money to where it gave me the confidence to quit my job. And oh man, that was a good decision, but a bad decision because I thought, oh, if I quit my job and then I have all this time, that means I'm going to work even harder on figuring out what I wanted out of life. But wasn't really true because I went from having a steady paycheck to no paycheck. But luckily, I take initiative and I refused to quit. And so I ended up finding something that enabled me to harness some of my natural skills, which, for context, I've always been somebody that likes writing. So I started selling my services to people that needed writing services. So I started with a company called Gorilla Mind. I started with another blog called boldanddetermined.com. I just started writing articles for people in exchange for money. And then I started learning affiliate marketing. And this led to me eventually launching my very own email copywriting service, which then evolved into a global consultancy with helping people grow on social media, and specifically corporate structures, people that are already making lots of money, helping them penetrate the market in social media. But it all started with me picking a direction. And so this is something I recommend for everybody. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to pick a general direction that you're going to move in life within the career structure. Just pick something you're kind of interested in, you're drawn to, and just start taking action towards it. Because I would have never foresaw that I would be a high-paid social media consultant. Like, if I thought of that way back when, I probably wouldn't have gotten started, because I would be like, well, I know nothing about it. But I just got started where I was. I started writing blog articles, then I started writing sales pages, then I started writing emails, which eventually led me to launching my social media consultancy. So you don't need to have it all figured out, what you're going to do with your career. You just need to have a general direction to move in, and then start moving towards that. And the reality you need to accept is university is not going to give you the answer. Unless you're going to be like an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, or something like that, very likely university is going to be a waste of your time. Like, cool, you got a piece of paper. Congratulations. But it's not actually going to translate into you making money. That's the safety side of society. Society wants you to follow the system, but you can look around, and the people that get their college degrees, do they actually end up using it? Let me know down in the comments. Maybe there's somebody watching this right now that actually used their college degree, went out there and built a very successful career. I'm open to being wrong, so let me know down below. But here's where I began brainwashing myself. I just wanted to lay the foundation for you so you can understand and then emulate this in your own life. But I realized that all the people that I aspire to be like, all the people I looked up to, the reason I looked up to them is they were bigger than life. It was like they were not from this planet. They were a character. And I realized that if my identity was the thing that was built by other people, and that was part of why I was living the life I was living, all I had to do was sit there and create my own identity. And so that's when I came up with the alter ego concept. If you go to commoncollected.com, type in how to enlarge your ego, you can read that article. That was like one of the big epiphanies that I had many years ago. But I realized that I could control how I looked, how I dressed, the thoughts that I could install new beliefs, I could uninstall other beliefs. And that's a very liberating thing. Of course, makes you very uneasy in the beginning, because you're like, well, no, I want to be told exactly this and this and this. But at the end of the day, you have to just do things. You just have to test things. Stop being scared of being wrong. Stop being scared of failure. Like, what's going to happen is going to happen. You may as well test things on your own. And actually, as a matter of fact, goals. I want you to create a name for your alter ego. On my end, the very first one I had was the East Coast Renegade. So give it a name, and then write down the traits that you wish you had. So it doesn't need to be true now, but it needs to be traits that you aspire to be like. As example, back then I had a stutter, I mumbled, I was very unconfident, I was very indecisive, I would overthink everything. So my alter ego was able to speak in a way that would hypnotize people. He didn't stutter, he spoke with complete confidence and believed in everything he was doing. He didn't overthink, he was very decisive. And so I wrote all these things down, and for goals, it needs to be something that's realistic. So I didn't sit there making $1,000 a month and say, my alter ego makes $1 million a month. I didn't start out like that. I said, my alter ego makes $1,200 by selling X, Y, and Z. And so, meaning you got to have some kind of skill set, and that gives you a clear goal, and it's realistic, meaning your subconscious is going to believe it. Because if you say, let's say you're making $1,000 a month, and you say, my alter ego makes $10,000 a month, you've never even made that. So it's not believable. But if you make your goal slightly ahead of where you're at, then it's believable. And if it's believable, you're going to actually take action on it. But then you have to take it a step further. You need some kind of mechanism to get there. That could be working more hours at your job and cutting your expenses. It can be working your job, cutting your expenses, and starting a side hustle. As an example, reselling items for profit or selling some kind of service such as dog walking, lawn mowing. It could be you offering social media management services. Maybe you're a web designer, you can offer web design services, but that gives you a clear goal. And then you also understand the steps you need to take to achieve that goal. And as you've began creating your alter ego, as you've began creating your identity, you've started moving in a general direction and you have a clear set goal, then you have to just make the move. You have to make the leap because so many people, they'll sit there and they start seeing some progress, but it's not drastic progress. Meaning you get started at the gym and you don't have a six pack and you're not able to bench 500 pounds in a matter of a month or two. And so you give up. So you have to adopt this mindset of it'll take as long as it takes. Like on my end, I realized I didn't care if it took me 10 years, as long as I got to that goal, I was going to be fulfilled and happy. So I didn't, in my mind, didn't sit there and say, oh, well, it's been 2 months and I haven't become a multimillionaire and I haven't been able to travel abroad. I accepted it's going to take as long as it takes. And I knew in my heart of hearts that as long as I was working towards it, at some point I would achieve it. And the same is true for you. The reason you haven't gotten the life you wanted yet is because you've quit so many times. You'll start and stop, start and stop. You'll get super excited about some idea. And as soon as you get some kind of failure, you just quit. You're like, oh, yep, maybe this isn't for me. But you have to keep pushing forward. And the final point of brainwashing yourself, I got started at 19, living my dream life by 23, was you reprogram your mind and reprogram your life through action, not through affirmations, not through reading another self-help book. You reprogram it through action. And one of the biggest things that keeps you from taking action is you try to take advice from the entire village. So you get advice on example, let's say you want to build an amazing family, but you take advice from people that are peasants and just do hookup culture and casual stuff. You don't need to be taking relationship advice from people that don't have a happy relationship. I'd rather take relationship advice from somebody that's been happily married for 10, 15, 20 years, has a good family dynamic, has children. I would take advice from that person. Or when it comes to making money, stop taking advice from people that haven't achieved the financial goals that they have for themselves, because clearly their point of view on reality is not true. And from there, and this is a really big problem in today's world, is you have to ignore the distractions. Like, think about the last time you got bored. You probably pulled out your phone and started scrolling on Instagram or scrolling on TikTok or whatever it is you do when you get distracted. That's causing you to siphon off your energy and not actually take action. So one thing that I want you to start doing is stop distracting yourself with your phone. Your phone is one of the single reasons you're not living the life you want. Because any single time you feel a little bit of uneasiness or boredom, you immediately go to your phone. And then you start looking at other people's highlight reels of life, which is completely manufactured. And then you start feeling bad about yourself. Man, there's this 20-year-old that's living this kind of life. I'm not living that. Oh, boo-hoo. And then you wonder why you don't have the motivation to do what you need to do. So a rule that I want you to set for yourself is stop pulling out your phone as soon as you feel a little uneasy, a little bored. You need that stimulation. You need to get your stimulation from actually doing things. So go to the gym, go for a walk, build your business, tell your girl you love her, tell your girl the life that you're building together. Actually do things. Because at the end of the day, action is the only thing that's actually going to change your life. And you know this. You already know this. You sitting around feeling bad, you fantasizing, you distracting yourself with your cell phone, it's never going to actually do stuff. You're the one that has to do stuff. And then finally, and this is the final point on brainwashing yourself, is you need to be obsessed and consistent. I could only think about the goals that I was going after. As soon as I would wake up, that was the first thought on my mind. As soon as I was going to sleep, that was what was on my mind. All throughout the day, that was all I was thinking about, was becoming that version of myself. But then, this is the next point, consistency. If you get obsessed for a week, for a month, for 2 months, and then you quit, you're going to keep repeating that endless loop. So you just have to accept and refuse to live any reality except the one that you want, and consistently do it every single day. It's not about you becoming drastically better in a single day. It's about you becoming 1 to 2% better. You multiply that over a year, over 2 years, over 3 years, that's how you achieve success. And so stop setting these massive, massive goals and then feeling bad about yourself. Set a realistic goal and then work towards it every single day, and that needs to be the only thing in your mind. Stop thinking about the sports team. Stop thinking about Netflix. Stop thinking about video games. Stop thinking about mindlessly scrolling. Only think about the goals you have and what actions you can consistently take to make it happen. Now, if you want help creating your very own script, I'm going to link down in the description below a book that I wrote, and it's my manual on how I was able to brainwash myself, and it's going to be very helpful for you. It's called Think and Go Hustle. Just go ahead and check the description down below. But take action on everything we just discussed in this video. I'm telling you, if you want to change your life, you're going to have to brainwash yourself. You're going to have to work towards it, but it is so worth it.